what are we doing in the black community? The number one consumer of a Mercedes-Benz is us. The number one consumer of a Gucci and a Louis Vuitton, us. And they don't even advertise. Why is it that in the black community, we are always the number one consumer, but we're not the number one creators?
So you just said it, the fact that there's consumers and creators. For so long, we assume success based on consumption.
Welcome back to Closing the Gap, the truth about black wealth. Of course, I'm your host, Mr. Wilbert Hamilton, along, of course, my co-host and associate, Mr. Eddie Richardson, of course, owner and founder of Blueprint Barbershop. Got a wonderful guest here today, a brother from the greatest organization and fraternity in the United States of American history, Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity. You know, shameless plug, gotta throw it up. You know, gotta represent. We got another good brother here, of course. He represents 1911, so we support them as well. You know, of course, we support the brothers from Making Psi Phi as well. So there's some good brothers indeed. So,
yes, indeed.
So we definitely blessed and highly favored today. We got a special, of course, guest, Mr. Williams, and I want to kind of jump into some things that we have going on. He's definitely running a very important organization here in the Birmingham area, and we want to dive right into that. Kind of let them know about some things we have going on and things they're trying to do here in the community in Birmingham. We think what they're doing is special and unique, and we need more of it. But we want him to tell you, all the details and all the facts around it. So, Brother Williams, thank you for being here. And
thank you for having me.
We're gonna jump right into it, man. What do y'all have going on with this Building Black Wealth Tour?
Yeah, so the Building Black Wealth Tour is a 100-city tour. Tours all across the country where we're looking to engage 100,000 black residents across the country on April the 13th, which is this coming Saturday, April the 13th. And locally here in Birmingham, we're looking to engage 1,000 residents locally. So the Building Black Wealth Tour basically is a real estate extravaganza with all things home ownership and real estate. So we're having conversations around what to do with Big Mama's house. So if you have inherited some property from your family, from your grandmother, things of that nature, and you want to figure out what to do with it, how do I navigate through the air property issues? I got multiple siblings and we're trying to work through how this stuff is going to work. I don't have any paperwork. I'm living in grandma's house, but I don't have no paperwork on it, and I can't really do anything with it. How do I navigate through stuff like that? We'll have a focus on women investing in real estate, so empowering our women to go out and take down investment properties and things of that nature. We have a focus on black men buying houses. So single black males are the lowest demographic of homeowners across the spectrum. So we want to be able to have the conversation with our brothers, like what is it that is maybe causing some hesitancy when it comes to purchasing a home. Our ladies are outpacing us by leaps and bounds. We'll also have conversations for just people who already own homes. So I have equity in my home. What can I do with that? How do I maximize on the equity? What financial advantages do I have with being able to use that equity to build my personal wealth? I will have a conversation for just people who want to be able to purchase homes, ABCs of home ownership, how can you get access to down payment assistance, all of these things. There'll be youth activities, vendor booths, free food, DJ, just a total extravaganza. And again, this is April the 13th, and we're gonna host it at the Star Church with Dr. Thomas Beavers.
Okay, yeah. Well, that's great. We definitely need more of that, and of course, people perish with lack of knowledge. I know, Mr. Richardson, you definitely heavily involved in, of course, real estate acquisition yourself. So, some of the topics that, of course, Mr. Williams touched on, and one of the topics I think is key, and I know we've kind of discussed a little bit just here and there in the barbershop from time to time, is that home ownership, especially for men of color. And I know you having some personal experience in that. What are some things you think could maybe help our young brothers and, overcome some of them hurdles that we know are there that are leading us to be last and allowing those women to outpace us? What are some things you think we could probably do maybe to catch up?
Yeah, appreciate it, Wilbert, and definitely appreciate Justin coming on and bringing a knowledge of this. I think that's first, is having a brother like Justin coming on and being willing to share this type of knowledge and let the public know what is going on in this space. One thing that he said about some of the things that they're going to be doing and is knowing what to do with Big Mama's house, having an understanding of taxes and how to transfer things and get things deeded into your name. I think that's a big key for me personally, because as I see and you ride through some of the neighborhoods that most of our people live in, and you see some of the houses that have been dilapidated, and most times it's because people did not know how to transfer the home to the next of kin. They did not know how to manage taking care of a home. You know, what does it take? What type of home maintenance, you know, does it take to keep a house up? You know, when a house is, when nobody's living in a house, you know, the house is pretty much dead.
Yeah.
You know, but it's just like a body. It has to breathe. There has to be fresh air coming in and out, doors opening, and life being lived in that house. So I definitely think that major key from what Justin said for me is that letting them know what to do with Big Mama's house, what to do with Granddaddy's house that they built by their hands, right? You know, because I think that's a major thing in the community is that in the 50s and 60s, a lot of our grandparents, they built those homes by hand, and the building codes weren't what they are now. And so because all of those codes changed, then we perish for a lack of knowledge of understanding what laws have changed and how can we adapt to them. So it's not that we can't do, it's the fact that we don't know how to do. So I appreciate Justin and the organization for spreading that word in that, because even scripture tells us that we need to build houses to live in and plant gardens, you know, because that's the basis of living, right?
Absolutely.
No matter what size home you have, how big or how small, we're all pretty much doing the same thing.
Absolutely.
We're trying to live, we're trying to eat, we're trying to take care of a family.
Absolutely. And I have personal experience of, you know, a house not lived in, it dies. Unfortunately, I had a home back in my hometown that I had moved away from. I had rented it out for a little while. I had it sitting for a little while, and you know, in that time that it was sitting, I had more issues with that home from that point of time to the time I sold it than I did in the previous 12 years that I owned that home. So, you know, I definitely can speak to that with firsthand knowledge and experience. And you know, I've been hearing a lot about, of course, the organization NAREB. Of course, all the different things y'all have going on. Tell me, what is NAREB's overall goal? And I know you are, of course, the representative of NAREB now, so I want to definitely celebrate you and congratulate you on that, you know, wonderful achievement. Of course, you know, Rosa Cap outside, you know, achievement every field of human endeavor. So, you know, we specialize in achievement here. So, you know, not to be unexpected, but you know, still, you know, congratulations, all you know, all the same. But tell me a little bit about NAREB and kind of, you know, how it was formulated and kind of what you all do in the community and kind of where you all want to take things.
Okay, so I currently serve as the president for the Birmingham Realtist Association, which is the local chapter of the National Association of Real Estate Brokers. So we're the premier network of black real estate professionals. One of the beautiful part about NAREB is any black professional in the real estate industry can be a member. So not just real estate agents, but lenders, appraisers, surveyors, developers, contractors, title reps, insurance people, anybody that has any real estate affiliation can be members of the organization. So NAREB's mission is democracy in housing, and the focus is increasing black home ownership. So NAREB was created in 1947, back at a time when black real estate professionals were not able to be a part of the National Association of Realtors. So, you know, what we do best is we create our own platform in order to not only support black real estate professionals, but to advocate for black consumers as well. So throughout the 76-year history of NAREB, you know, you've seen a lot of things like the Fair Housing Act. NAREB was involved in that. There are some local things in regards to some of your mortgage premiums around FHA financing. NAREB was involved in that. Some of the things in regards to the way that they calculate student loans for loan processes, NAREB was involved in that. So there's a lot of advocacy work that happens behind the scenes from a political standpoint through the organization, but there is also a community focus. So you have things like the Building Black Wealth Tour, or there was an initiative, 2 million homeowners within 5 years, or there was an initiative, the house before the car. So there are several community initiatives around not only increasing black home ownership, but increasing black wealth through real estate, whether that be home ownership or investing, through a knowledge-based standpoint of giving education, but also through policies that can help adjust those things in order for people to be able to get access to opportunities more easily and more readily.
Okay. Well, some of you actually said that kind of struck a nerve with me. I won't say a nerve is probably a good word, but just struck a chord with me in the beginning was that, a group and organization of professionals. I'm a real big proponent. Of course, we talk about it all the time, of course, here on the podcast, that, we have to seek professional advice in our community. Don't be a jack of all trades and master of none. Justin is a professional when it comes to real estate. He is a professional and he's looking to be the best he could possibly be in his craft, which happens to be real estate. The Bible tells you a man skillful in his work will be placed before great men. So we really have to get back to that. I'm really a proponent of, seeking professional help in whatever area you need. I myself am a financial advisor. Of course, Brother Richardson is a barber by trade. Of course, he's a man of God as well. So I seek his advice on both of those, instances. And of course, I can speak from personal experience. Mr. Williams, of course, along with his associate, Mr. Terry Mills, of course, sold me a home. A couple years ago. So I can speak directly to his professionalism and, what he's done, not just for me, but what I've seen him do. I'm a proponent that we talked about earlier. I'm not a fan of sacrificing service with anyone.
Right.
I'm a proponent of definitely being pro-black. I'm going to support the people that look like me first and foremost. As long as we can get the job done, you got to support the people like you because, like we said, earlier off camera, at the end of the day, supporting that person that looks like you is a greater chance they turn around and give you some support back later on when you need it as well. We continue to support people that don't look like us and they're not pouring that support back into us. We really can't be mad at anyone but ourselves.
Right.
So with that being said, definitely want to kind of, thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you all.
We understand that, especially from a professional standpoint, all of us, I think, married, have families, and have kids now.
Right.
So there's, stress and strain that comes along with life, and taking time out of your day to be a part of an organization that goes above and beyond the call of duty to continue to enhance and build and uplift your community, it's a special thing. So to see people giving back in a number of different ways is always something that we need to support and get behind in more ways than one. See you back in a second. Welcome back to Closing the Gap. Of course, we're here keeping it moving. We're having a wonderful day today. Of course, getting a lot of information and picking up a lot of knowledge and wisdom from the gentleman to my left, and of course, information from Mr. Williams on my right. And I want to continue to dive into some special things that NAREB is doing and the organization Mr. Williams is kind of spearheading here with their special week of events they have planned, particularly this week. What are some of the special initiatives y'all have going on and that could be, beneficial and uplifting to the community here this week?
Yeah, so this week again is just going to be a week of events in regards to membership recruitment, to community engagement. On Tuesday, we will do a State of Housing in Black America luncheon, where we kind of dive into what does Black America look like from a housing standpoint for us, not only from a national standpoint, but from a local level as well, in regards to what do the home ownership rates look like locally, what do the loan denial rates look like locally, what do the rental assistance opportunities look like locally, things of that nature. And then, like I said, there will be a developers tour throughout the week. We'll have a fundraiser for our scholarship where we disperse scholarship money to rising college freshmen. 14 scholarships, 1,000 scholarships that we give across Jefferson and Shelby counties. There will be a screening of a film called Gaining Ground, which is around Black farmer rights and air property. So specifically, we talked about land. That's what that film and that panel discussion will be around. And again, on Saturday, will be kind of the culmination of all of that in regards to the Building Black Wealth Tour Day, where it will be a real estate extravaganza. But from a national standpoint, the organization has one area that there's an intense focus on, which is the Black Developers Academy. So NAREB just recently launched the Black Developers Academy with 50 members from across the entire country to be a part of that. There were over 400 applications throughout the membership from across the country. 50 people were selected. I'm proud to say that 6 out of Birmingham were selected for this first cohort, which is the largest amount in the country. I'm blessed to be one of the 6 that were included in that as well. And one of the game changers about the Black Developers Academy, one of the things that I want people to really understand is the golden rule. He who has the gold makes the rules. And the person that controls the land is the one that controls the daily fabric of our lives. So not only from a home ownership standpoint, but real estate as a whole controls every single aspect of your life. From the access to services that you have around you, a developer is actually putting those plans together. So if there's a Publix, a Whole Foods, or if there's no grocery store around you at all, there are people who are making those decisions, and that is what development looks like. If you have access to healthy options around you, if you have access to unhealthy options around you, if you don't have access to anything, if you have communities that are underserved and underdeveloped and underinvested, there are individuals who are making those decisions, and those are all things affect your actual quality of life. So when we talk about property tax dollars and school systems and access to healthy living and food and companies that are moving into certain neighborhoods and pollution and all of those things, from a development standpoint, all of that is controlled by real estate developers and your governmental entities and things like that. So that's why real estate development is so important, because the developer, the person who controls the land or who has the goal, is the one that's making the rule in regards to what you as the consumer have access to. And even from a practical standpoint, when we say he who has the gold makes the rules, where does gold come from? Out the land. You know what I'm saying? Where does oil come from? Out the land. So in regards to the people who are able to control the land, they are literally controlling the gold. So that's why it's so important from a standpoint of, we want people to buy houses, but we also want to get to the next level. And that Developers Academy is helping people get to the next level of really controlling the fabric of what individuals' day-to-day lives can look like through real estate development.
Well, absolutely. Like I say, people perish due to lack of knowledge. And Brother Richard, I know you definitely have a lot of wisdom and a lot of knowledge when it comes to not just the area of real estate, but also, of course, how the word relates. And I heard a lot of word in what he was saying, even though he didn't necessarily preach the word. So for me, I'm always like to, allow you to kind of dive a little deeper into, some things and how, we can kind of correlate the two together and understand that, I'm always on the path trying to stay righteous and holy myself and try to do a better job of, I think one time before we talked about our own individual plans and, our own rituals from the standpoint of, how we get up and, seek God first. And I think that has a lot to do with our mental focus and where we take things. And one of the lessons I learned, I believe last year, I always say that the good verse in the Bible says, we have not because we ask not. But also, a man who is faithful in his works and skillful in his work, being placed before great men. And I'm thankful I'm being placed before great men in different areas, because I need a little word right now. I want to see what the good pastor got for me and as it relates to some of the things that Mr. Williams is speaking on.
Yeah, I think and what Mr. Williams is speaking on is putting people in the presence of good men. With the Development Academy. Absolutely. I think that's what that's what I heard him say, is that, hey, you bring these group of people in and they share ideas and then are able to disseminate that to the public, able to disseminate that information to the people. And that's where scripture comes in about when you said, the people, God said, my people perish for a lack of knowledge. So what Justine is saying definitely sticks to their number one core of their values with NAREB, because what I read on their website was that first thing that they deal with is being faith-based. And that's what I do respect about NAREB, and definitely with Justine, like you said, he's preaching that without preaching that, because of their core values, one of the main pillars of NAREB is being faith-based. Also, as he's talking about he who controls the gold, and the gold comes from the land, I'm reminded of what my father would always tell myself and my brothers. He said, hey, get some land, because that's one thing that can't be reproduced. Said when God made the heavens and the earth, that was it. That was done. You see what I'm saying? And this land has constantly been regenerated, but God didn't make another Genesis moment but that one time, right? So with what NAREB is doing, I think that definitely ties into making sure that we don't have a slack hand for poverty, where we can build and acquire things so that we can have wealth and be able to take care of ourselves and take care of our fellow brothers and sisters in the community. Because that's key. That's why God put us here, is to take care of our fellow man. You know, not to be selfish, but to love one another as we love God. We should show that love by taking care of one another. And I think that's definitely what NAREB is doing right now, is showing us the way in which we need to care for one another once again. Something else that you said, Justin, was talking about the farmers. And if you could you kind of delve back into that a little bit about, you know, that farmer piece and about that land piece with NAREB?
Yeah, absolutely. So NAREB has a partnership with the Black Farmers Association and with USDA, which is the governmental entity that handles not only the agriculture side, but they also handle financing for the agriculture side. So if you look back at just kind of the fabric of things coming out of slavery and the Reconstruction time periods and all of those evolutions after slavery and the Civil War and all of those things, you had Black individuals who own a mass amount of land. Now, you know, we always heard of the 40 acres and a mule, okay, but you also had a lot of Black people who own an immense amount of land just over the years. And a lot of that land has either been lost through what we talked about a little bit earlier, the lack of preparation from transfer of ownership through generations. Some of that land has been taken by, you know, maybe developers or cities with eminent domain and things of that nature. You probably have seen a lot of the headlines in regards to like some beachfront property that was taken away and that was kind of recently given back to a family. You have a lot of farmland, things of that nature that have been taken away. Even here in Birmingham, I hear about before I-65 was built, how much of like Titusville and those communities that were thriving, and they drove the interstate right through the middle of the Black community and, you know, took that land, and now you have values on one side of the interstate that are significantly less than values on the other side of the interstate. So, you know, just long story short, you've seen a lot of Black people lose land over the years. And not only with that, those who were farmers of the land at some point could not get financing for land. I'll speak for my grandfather specifically. So my grandfather, he owns land in our hometown of Burnt Corn, Alabama. And he had hundreds of acres of land, okay? And the way that he was navigating through it at times, he could not even get financing to grow on the land and things like that. So he would have to go to, you know, a local white guy in the neighborhood, and the guy would loan him the money, but he wanted the land. That's the only reason why he would loan him the money, because he's like, I want your land and I'm waiting on you to default so I can take it. And to this day, he never defaulted on the land. You know, he's passed away many, many years ago, but my mom and her siblings, they all control the land now. But from that standpoint, you've seen so many times where Black people have acquired a lot of land just through our ancestors over the years, and that land has been lost. So that's one of the focuses of that film. It's called Gaining Ground. It was created by Al Roker from NBC's Today Show, his production company, in partnership with John Deere. And that's what the film is about. It's just about Black people that have lost an immense amount of land. You know, how do you work through air property things? It talks about the discrimination with USDA and the farmers financing and all of those things. So it's a great documentary. But that is an initiative of NAREB as well, is to try to help individuals who have land. So when we talked about what to do with Big Mama's house, it wasn't just the bricks and sticks of the house, but maybe you've acquired land as well from your family. How do we navigate through those things in order to make sure that we're either putting in a land trust, or we have some way of making sure that this land is reproducing?
Absolutely.
Whether I put timber on it, whether I rent it out to another farmer, whether I rent it out to hunters. How do I make sure that this land reproduces and keep producing income for the family? And how do we make sure that we keep it long term so it can keep just benefiting our seeds over the time frame?
Absolutely, absolutely. And one of the things I know we talked about, and one of the things we want to kind of dive into as well is, I know you come from I won't say a small town, but a small town to me, and I've experienced with Mr. Justin. I said the other end of his Grandfather did a good job of making sure that the money and the land transferred. Unfortunately, I come from one of those families that lost a lot of that land, down in the country, and things were not properly taken care of and, deeded over and whatnot. So there's been some mishaps, and, I know my mama to this day is trying to fight back and trying to figure out a way to, claw back, what they had. But, like anything else, that's a process that, unfortunately she probably won't see in her lifetime. And, who knows, the next generation is not as important. We don't see the importance, understand the importance, because, we didn't work on that land and till that land and grow from that land the way they did. So, that value is not there where it needs to be. Where that comes from, like I say, just a lack of knowledge and understanding, which we don't have. And, I want to kind of ask your opinion on that, as far as from you kind of seeing it firsthand and having an own personal experience of being in some of those positions. How do you feel that, that has affected us from a, not just from a financial standpoint, but from a psychological standpoint? Because a lot of that ties into those experiences, I think, have now led and bled over from us losing the land to us losing, like I say, Big Mama's house, to us now not being as engaged in the home buying process, and why maybe our black men are last. And we have a lot of psychological trauma and damage in our community that's been passed down from generation to generation, from slavery on down. And I always think about how those things kind of correlate together, and just not understanding from one generation to the next. And even though the actual situation we may be in may change, but the trauma is what I feel like is staying the same and continuing making us make those same mistakes over and over and over again, just in different ways, but it's affecting us, all the same, and holding us back from a community standpoint and being able to grow as a community. Because if I don't, like you said, if I don't own the land, then if I can't get financing for the land, that means I can't produce nothing from the land. Well, in our minds, why have the land? The land is not beneficial. When, it's not that the land isn't beneficial. It's just we didn't have the right resources, and we weren't in a position to utilize and maximize what comes from the land. So a lot of that, goes back to kind of some of the things obviously you spoke on, and we talk on kind of from a continuous, basis from this, from this podcast, and as it's why it's important to, speak to, a professional on one side of the coin from a real estate perspective, but also I always go back to, that professional, on the spiritual side and the religious side that we need to have. And, what do you see? I mean, because I know you being, like I said, being, pastored over church and, working with people on a day-to-day basis, how do you see, do you see any correlation, in that?
Yeah, definitely correlation. First of all, this systemic racism is what you see happening in this a lot of times, where, as Justin said, his grandfather was able to get along from the European guy in the neighborhood because ultimately he wanted that land. And he was planning on Justin's grandfather defaulting on the loan so that he can acquire the land. But as Justin said, and I think it's definitely plausible that his grandfather didn't default. And I think that's why Justin is who he is today, and also in the position that he is in, is because he saw the positive out of that, versus what you were just mentioning about, traumatic experiences of losing land. So when you have the opposite happen, where Justin grew up in a family where his grandfather fought and made sure that he paid and kept the land, on the other side of that, you have traumatic experiences where some saw their parents get the same loans, or their grandparents get the same loans, and then the Mr. Charlies come in and take the land because they weren't able to produce. Let's say that it was a bad year for crops and they weren't able to turn the same money over. So as a result, instead of getting some grace in that situation, now you come and you take what I have. So I'm not able to regenerate. And as we speak about this, I think about Isaiah 65, where the prophet receives a word from God and talks about God saying, I'm going to create a new heaven and a new earth. And he's not saying that it's going to be physical, but it's more of a spiritual regeneration. And that's what has happened over the time of this earth. Is there are constantly different ages and different phases of the earth where you have different lifespans going on, and certain things die off for other things to come back to life. which now for us, we are the generation that needs to be the ones building and taking advantage of what NAREB and what Mr. Williams are bringing out here now is as the prophet Isaiah received in Isaiah 65 about God saying, I will create a new heavens and new earth, and the former things are going to pass away and they won't even be remembered. He goes on and begins to talk about how the people will be able to build houses, inhabit them, plant vineyards, be able to feed their children, have the fruit of them, and then says that no one else will be able to inhabit that land, right? And that's the beautiful thing about Justine's family. Nobody else inhabits their land. They're able to inhabit that. They're able to pass on the generational wealth. And that's where we are able to close the gap and not have gaps. Even open up is when we're able to keep what we have. And so I applaud NAREB, I applaud Justine in this moment. Like I said, first pillar they have is faith-based and civic involvement to do this. So and that's key, because nothing that we do can be done unless we have God, as we talked about in the previous podcast, as that foundation.
Absolutely.
This is what standing on business really is basing things off of God and moving it forward, because God created the heavens and the earth.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And all things are in his hand. You know, the childhood song we sing in church, you know, he's got the whole world in his hand. And if we keep that in mind, then we will take care and manage what he has allowed to be in our hands, because we realize that we are still in his hands.
Well, absolutely, and like I said, I always draw my own little, insights into the words that I'm being given from on both sides, and like I said, we talked about some of the trauma that we've had. Of course, Mr. Williams has a success story. His family is a success story, and that family that has been able to maintain, that land, and not allowing our own individual experiences to affect, positive decision making in the future. I can speak to my personal experience. I've never been negative on real estate, but I haven't probably been maybe as involved in, purchasing, real estate, because I had a bad experience. My first home I bought, in February of 2008. I experienced, personally, the value of a home being one thing, and then, 6 months later, 8 months later, 12 months later, it being, almost half of, what I purchased it for. So, that created a negative, experience. But this is why we're a proponent, of course, of seeking professional help, because when me and my wife went to go, purchase our next home, I looked around and I said, okay, well, first off, I wanted somebody that looked like me, because I knew nobody was going to understand me like people that look like me. And after sitting down, of course, and meeting with, him and Terry, they were able to take, what I was looking for. And of course, Mr. Williams was able to provide valuable insight into, what I should look for and things I could do to avoid having the same experience. So I'm personally appreciative and grateful, and especially now I'm at a time where I'm actually doing some of those renovations to to the home and to increase the value. So, I can definitely say firsthand, I'm going to have a very positive experience of this, this latest real estate purchase that, me and my wife had. But, I would have not have had it any other way than being able to look and see a situation where I was able to work with, not someone that's just a frat brother, but someone that looks like me, that shares the same values. And I'm able to be a beneficiary of their knowledge and expertise the same way I want people to be a beneficiary and recipient of mine. But, I can't sit here and want people to be a beneficiary and recipient of my knowledge and intellect, but I'm not willing to pour that back into people, that look like me as well. And, we got to support each other. We got to do a better job. We need to support NAREB. We need to support Mr. Williams and his, push forward. We need to support, all the people that look like us, who are truly trying to be professionals and the best at what, we're trying to do. I make no bones about it. I'm pro-black. I'm not anti-white, but at the same time, I'm very adamant about going after and working with people who provide service and value. If you can't do the job, I ain't gonna recommend nobody go see it. But as long as you can do the job, I think we need to give each other a chance. See you next time. Being in the business for almost 2 decades, I've experienced and know what truly works and creates longevity and success for our clients. We have developed great understanding and insight into what our community is looking for and expecting in a professional financial advisor.
We believe that the client always comes first because we're in the service business, not the sales business. We have a structured process that creates a predictable, reliable, and relatable result. Please join us in helping to close the gap in our community. Feel free to contact us at www.hamiltonwealthadv.com and also at 205-600-4754 for more information.
Welcome back to Closing the Gap, the Truth About Black Wealth. Of course, I'm here with Brother Eddie Richardson and our brother Justine Williams, of course, having a wonderful day today. Been definitely blessed and highly favored with some of the information and knowledge I've been able to receive, and we know you are too. Like I said, the whole goal of this podcast is just to bring about, enrichment, education, which hopefully leads to some kind of execution for you in your own life. We want you to take this information, spread it, pass it around, like, share, subscribe, because the only way we can, get better is to know better, and when you know better is to do better. So we want to continue to just kind of, put good out, and, we know God will give us good back. So without that being said, man, we definitely want to jump into one of the unique initiatives that I've seen kind of come about, of course, here in the city of Birmingham. It kind of caught my attention when I saw it, and it's the, City of Birmingham in conjunction, I think, with NAREB, if I'm not mistaken, and it's the down payment assistance program.
Right.
I'm always curious as to who qualifies for that. How do I get access to it? If I can get access to it, and who's it available for? And I think, like I say, that I'm sure some people out there that's going to see this and, maybe thinking about it, maybe on the fence about, when should I buy a home? And that may be a program that's beneficial for them. I remember being that first time home buyer, and unfortunately I didn't get the expertise in any, benefits of being a first time home buyer, unfortunately. So I don't want nobody to make the same mistakes that that I have, or not taking advantage of those opportunities. Right. So definitely want to kind of allow you to share some insight and information about those programs.
Okay. So the City of Birmingham, through the Community Development Department, has released a down payment assistance program in the sum of $600,000. And in order to qualify, we have a partnering organization, Neighborhood Housing Services of Birmingham, is where all of the funds are flowing through. So you have to take some real estate education, so like a first-time home buyer session, where NAREB is a part of the organization to help facilitate those real estate educational pieces. And then from there, you would still qualify for just a normal regular loan, like a FHA loan, a conventional loan, VA, whatever the case may be, that process. Now, when you work with partnering banks, some of those banks will also provide additional funds to go with what the City of Birmingham is offering. So to kind of give you more real numbers, the City of Birmingham will allow you to get at least $10,000 from their program for down payment assistance. That can be used for strictly principal reduction, straight off the price or straight off the loan amount. It can be used for closing costs, so any closing costs that you may have, and it can be used to buy down your interest rate in order to lower that interest rate as well. Partnering banks will come in with additional funds for grant money, which is typically allowed to be used in the same vein, either for down payment assistance, closing costs, or typically the grant money is not able to be used for rate buy downs, but typically it's just down payment and closing costs. So a borrower could get potentially anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 between what they're working with the City of Birmingham and what they're working with through the partnering banks. And again, what we come in is for those individuals who are not already working with a real estate professional, we're able to assist you through the entire process of getting access to the funds. Where do I go? How do I get my real estate educational piece, my home buyer seminar? How do I find the home? How do we negotiate the contract? All of those things, that's where we come into the fold in order to be able to make this work. There are some very unique opportunities with partnering banks. So we have one bank that has a specific initiative only through NAREB that you could actually, if you're a HBCU graduate, and that's at any point in time, that could be, you could have graduated in 1920. If you still want to buy a house, if you are a HBCU graduate, you can get grant funds through this program. Now you do have to purchase in the City of Birmingham for the City of Birmingham's funds. The HBCU program that we talked about, that's something that's statewide, so that's just not local. But again, typically these programs are income based. So, Wilbert, I know you attached to a lot of high rollers. So, those people may not qualify. Typically, they're looking at 80% of the area median income is kind of what the qualification is. They are looking for certain credit score requirements and all of those things, but that's what it kind of looks like in order to be able to get access to those funds. So, again, it's $600,000 from the City of Birmingham. That's divvied out in $10,000 increments. And then if you work with a partnering bank that's a part of the program, you could get up to some additional funds that may be up to another $10,000 partnering funds in order to make your pot bigger to go towards your purchase of your home.
Okay, well, no, that's interesting, because for me, the first thing I think, well, I may not qualify personally based on income, but what if I got some kids that do?
Yeah.
You know, what if you have a son or daughter that's at my house? Well, and there, you know, you've been thinking about, should they buy, should they rent, what should they do? I'm putting a lot of money out, and rental prices have gone up, of course, the last few years. Does it make sense for us looking to buy a home in the area? Well, that may be a way. You know, if you're a graduate of Miles yourself, that may be a situation where you can come in and maybe your son or daughter may able to purchase a home and get them started on the right path and having a good experience early in life when it comes to the value and benefits of real estate. Well, they could use that, and all of a sudden, between these programs as well, getting those down payments and everything's paid for. So now you're in a house, virtually almost no money down, and, you know, having a successful start to your financial future because you have a foundation, you know, built on something that we know God ain't making no more of, and of course there's land. Yes, so, you know, there's always a way. You know, like I said, well, there's a will, there's a way. And, you know, for me, when I hear something, I'm like, well, it might not benefit me, but it may benefit somebody close to me. So, you know, and this is why, in just that, in that conversation you heard what Mr. Williams said, this is why it's important you work with a professional. Because just because someone has a real estate license doesn't mean they're going to be able to execute the job with the level of success and business acumen as someone like Mr. Williams. He's going to know about certain programs. He's going to know about certain initiatives that everyone just doesn't know about. Does that mean that he's the only one that knows about these programs? No. But when you're working with someone who's a true professional and student in their craft, they're continuing to build their knowledge base. They're going to always have access to additional resources and things that's going to benefit you in your home buying process. So this is why it's important not to just work with someone who is a real estate agent part-time or sometimes, or is not totally committed to being the best that they can possibly be. This is why it's important to work with someone who is committed to being just that way, because that is going to be beneficial to you. That is going to be create a beneficial experience for you and going to lead to greater success and going to lead to you passing down them good habits to your kids, so we can hopefully turn around this epidemic we have as far as black males being the last and least when it comes to home ownership. You know, we all know as you know, faith-based individuals, you know, our job as a man, I believe there's 4 principles: protect, provide, profit, and priest over my home. Well, I can't protect nothing that ain't mine. I ain't providing nothing if I ain't got no home. You know, so how am I gonna be willing to profit and priest? Who gonna let me profit and priest them when I ain't got no home? So that's just the core basics of, you know, just for me, you know, when I hear those type of things, you know, how we need to kind of take this information and utilize it in working with those professionals. But, you know, the great thing about when you hear someone speak, you know, everyone pulls something different out of the message. I'm always curious as to, you know, what the good brother pulled out of, you know, the word from Mr. Williams just now.
Oh man, the sharing, training up a child in the way they should go when they grow old, they won't depart from it. But also, you know, the golden rule of do unto others as you would have them to do unto you. So with the city making that initiative, when you want good citizens within your city, you have to help build up that citizenship. And that's what I hear him giving, the city giving in that regard. Because in order to have professionals that stay here and continue to invest in the city of Birmingham, we know that they're not getting this type of education in school.
Correct.
And I do think that we do have to implement these types of things at a younger age. So as Justin was talking, Justin, if I could ask you this question,
sure.
At what age, you know, does this program start for? Like,
I mean,
how young?
Yeah, once you get to home buying age, and we have people typically that get the home buying age around 19.
Okay.
They can take off and get access to the funds. So there's, I mean, as soon as you graduate high school and you're ready to roll, if you're able to qualify for a mortgage, like you have a job, you have income, or whatever the case may be, then you'll be able to take advantage of the funds.
All right.
Yeah.
Is there any limits on, like, so just anything in Birmingham City proper, anywhere?
Yeah, now it does have to be a primary residence.
Okay.
So it does have to be your primary residence. It's not available for investment properties and things of that nature. But yes, it's not limited to just single family homes. I mean, you could purchase a townhouse, you could purchase a condo, you could purchase a duplex, triplex, quadplex. So we talked about the students. I mean, that's house hacking at its best.
Absolutely.
You take advantage of all these opportunities. You get maybe a 2 to 4 unit property. You live in one, you let everybody else pay you rent. And now, at the same token, you never having to pull a mortgage payment out of your pocket. All of that is cash flowing, and you kind of starting off on the right foot. You take advantage of this, let that equity grow, move on to the next property, and you just kind of building off of the opportunities that are in front of you. So, yeah.
That's excellent. Now, also, I did see something about are there specific target areas that, Birmingham and NAREB are trying to build up in the city of Birmingham? Like what specific neighborhoods are targeted, if there are any?
Yeah, so I mean, the funds are available for anywhere in the city limits, but the city does have certain initiatives where they're doing new construction properties over in on the Inslee side of town, so Bellevue Heights, all of that particular area. They're getting ready to launch a project over in Pratt City as well, where they're going to do some new construction single family homes. There have been some new construction single family homes built over in Woodlawn as well, and there's an initiative right now for Fountain Heights. Considering kind of what's happening with Druid Hills, Norwood, Fountain Heights, that area, there's an initiative in regards to Fountain Heights as well, with new construction properties being built there. So those are kind of the 4 main areas at the moment where the city has an intense focus on putting new inventory and new housing stock on the ground.
Excellent. Now, another question, I'm kind of deep diving now. You got me going. Just so far as property. So let's say there's a person. So what about new build in that? Can you access any of those funds? Like if you want to do from a first-time home buyer, but I want to build my home and I find a plot of land in one of those areas that you just mentioned, can someone also access it through that as well? Yeah,
so I mean, again, the down payment assistance is just kind of gravy on top of whatever loan that you would automatically be qualifying for from the beginning. Okay. One of the areas that I left out a second ago was Smithfield. So there's a intense focus on Smithfield as well, with the city getting $50 million in grant funds from the federal government. That should be probably a $260 million project total by it's all said and done. I think there are going to be 1,100 new homes built over in the Smithfield area. Wow. Some for rental, some for home ownership, but that's also another area of focus through a lot of their initiatives. But like you said, if somebody wants to build from the ground up and use a construction to permanent loan, or if somebody wants to buy a new home that's already built and just use a traditional FHA or VA or conventional loan, as long as it's within the city limits of Birmingham, they meet the qualifications, credit score wise, income wise, then they can access the down payment funds.
Oh, that's excellent. That's it. Yeah. So I'll leave with this in mention of all that, Bro Will, is as I hear that, what I hear is NAREB is helping our community stop being slave to the lender. As Proverbs 22 speaks that the rich rules over the poor, and the borrower is a slave to the lender. Now we know that everybody does get some loans, but there's a difference in being able to borrow, like your grandfather was able to borrow, but he was never a slave to that lender. He was able to repay him. And that's what I see happening for the city of Birmingham, and I think it's an excellent initiative, because as long as you continue to be slave to your lender, then you always end up having traumatic experience with everything that you do.
Absolutely.
Right? It's like PTSD, in so to speak, because you never feel like you're worthy to have something. Because you feel like you always have to go to somebody else.
Absolutely.
To get. And that's the thing about being a slave to a lender, is that your focus is so much on who has things that you forget who actually controls all things. And so you always submitting yourself to the will of the human and to the person that's rich, and forgetting that God can cause that person to give you what you need, as long as you keep your focus on God.
Hey, like I said, a man skillful in his works will be placed before great men, and I'm being blessed and highly favored to be surrounded by some great men today. This is truly one of those episodes where, I truly feel that, more and more, of course, people perish due to lack of knowledge. I mean, of course, when you have professionals like Mr. Williams that are, experts in their craft and understand, opportunities that are available. And sometimes, the most important thing to realize when looking for a professional, you can be extremely bright on your own. I mean, a lot of people walk in my office and say, hey, they invest their money themselves. They buy index funds. They do this, they do that. And great. And I'm not knocking knowledge. You may be extremely bright and intelligent when it comes to, understanding the market or understanding real estate. But I can guarantee one thing that you will not have, that me and Mr. Williams will have access to, is access to resources and opportunity. We will have access to things that you just simply cannot access, because we have earned, whether it's through designations, through certain tests, through certain just opportunities and relationships, because we do this on a day in, day out basis. We're going to have access to things that you just don't have access to. And opportunity is what truly grants success. You can be extremely bright and understand real estate backwards and forwards. You can be extremely bright and understand investments backwards and forwards. But if you don't have the opportunity to get involved in either one of those things, no one would ever know how smart, bright, and intelligent and successful you can be in those things. Opportunity is what drives success. This is why I'm a huge proponent of supporting the people that look like me, because in our community, we can't get to where we need to go because we can't provide enough opportunity to the people that look like us. So it's why I'm a proponent of supporting, Black-owned business owners, Black-owned entrepreneurs. We have to support that, because if we don't, we're going to always be a slave to the lender. And right now, they doing all the lending, we doing all the borrowing. The only way to reverse course in that is that we have to take initiative, have to take a stand, start working and building up our own, so now we can work and empower the people that look like us to pour back into us and help us. We all know, ain't nobody gonna help you like you. The next closest person to you that's gonna help you is a person that look like you, because they understand what you're going through. The people that don't look like you, I'm not gonna say they're not gonna help you, but they're gonna be less likely and fewer and far between that do help you, because guess what? They busy helping their own. Every community does it. That's not a knock, that's just a fact. People that in other communities support their community first. That doesn't mean they don't support people outside their community. That don't mean they dislike or don't appreciate people outside their community, but it simply is a foundational principle and understanding that I'm going to support me and my family first. So whether it's my immediate family, and then it branches out to the rest of my, I guess you say biological family, and then it stretches out to my Black family and my African-American family. Whichever one you want to classify yourself as, hey, I'm Black, It is what it is. We all the same, So the one day you Black, the next day you're going to be African-American, next day you colored. We all in the same boat together. We have to stick together. We have to build one another. We have to continue to support the professionals and encourage those of us who are in these particular lanes that may not be as professional as some others. Speak life into them. Don't necessarily tear them down. We don't need more of, I tried to work with us, but I didn't have a good experience. Well, everybody has had bad experiences in every way, shape, form, or fashion, working with every kind of business owner. We've all walked in stores, or we all been followed around in the mall. We all went to the car dealership and nobody came out to talk to us, but it didn't stop us from buying what we wanted from that mall. It didn't stop us from getting that car we wanted from that dealership. We still move forward. We got to give our community and the people that look like us the same grace, because we need it more than anybody else. See you next time.